Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Raditude podcast. Lately, I've been doing and having guests on my show, although I did one solo one last week. But unfortunately, my guest today has COVID and won't be able to join us. So you get me. And I've been actually thinking for the last few days about a topic that is kind of interesting to me. Another book to write. I have like 20 books that I want to write, and I'm not really writing any of them, but I got another one. And this is going to be called The RAD Child. You know, everything I got, is rad, living rad, coach rad, hypno rad, loving ratatouille, whatever. I always just kind of put that on. And so I came up with this idea to write a book about the RAD child. And the RAD child is kind of some of the inner child work I'm doing. In fact, I've got a 3.5 hour inner child session with my friend Esther Evans from Bali tonight. And so that's going to be kind of cool. So I might as well talk about it now, or at least the way I know and understand this to be. And so the RAD child, the book, it opens up. I don't know how to write this because I'm not really a writer, but it opens up. And the RAD child is in the womb of my mom, Katalin Radnoti, who's not with us any longer. But in Tony Robbins' world, one of the exercises he has you do is go back in time to your first memories. And I remember my first memories the first time I went. This was a Date with Destiny. I think I was like 5 or so. The next year it got to 3. And, each year you do it. So you got to keep going back. And one of the years I finally got to, I'm in the womb before I'm born. And so I thought, what a perfect place for the RAD child to start is in the womb. And so it's when he first gets consciousness, becomes conscious. And he notices, hey, I'm in here, a bunch of embryonic fluids or liquids or whatever is in here. And it's dark. It's really dark. I don't see anything. And then the RAD child is born and comes into the world, and he's loved because I was loved. I know that not everyone has great loving childhoods or births, but my mom and my dad, they really wanted me. They were refugees from Hungary. My mom was really, really lonely, and she wanted a baby so that she wouldn't be so lonely. So I was born. But anyway, during those first 2 years of life, 0 to 2, you're what I'll call the original child. So that original child, the RAD child, is full of wonderment. And if you think about a baby, up till about 2 years old, they just like are crawling around. Eventually they stand up and they walk and they touch things and they eat things and they look around, and they're just full of wonder and wonderment. So I call that the original child. They are in the present. They are in the now. You know how you go to a lot of trainings and everyone says you got to live in the moment, live in the present. Well, the original child doesn't have to think about it. They don't really have a past. They don't really have an ability to think about the future either. They're just in the now, crawling around, exploring, being full of curiosity and wonderment. And so that little RAD child is growing up. He's learning to walk. He's trying different kinds of foods. He's running into walls or, doing whatever they're doing, but just going like, woo, 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 woo. It's a really cool place to be. But unfortunately, somewhere around 2 years old, that little RAD child gets wounded. And, our parents are well-meaning. We as parents, I'm a parent, I was well-meaning. But sometimes, unconsciously, we might say something that wounds a child. We might say something as simple as no. And to that original child, that little RAD child walking around going like, hey, what are you talking about? No, I'm the guy. I'm I'm present. What do you mean, no, I can't do that? Unfortunately, sometimes when we hear, no, you can't do that, we remember the part of, I can't do that. And we get wounded. Or might get wounded in lots of different ways. I don't know. You guys probably know better than me. But you move from that original child to a wounded child. And then you start going around and going like, hey, I didn't like that. And it happens again. And you go, huh, that doesn't feel very good. I got wounded again. And then you're going around trying to be the original child, and something else happens. And maybe this is a different kind of wound. And you start getting wounded all the time. Not all the time, but, periodically. And you start going like, hey, this doesn't feel good. What am I going to do about it? I've got to develop some defenses. And so you become a defensive child, or you develop defenses. And I know exactly what mine was. I learned it from my mom. This isn't a criticism, although it might sound that way. But when my mom was hurt, she got really quiet. She shut down. She stopped talking. And I learned that defense. So whatever wounds I had, I don't know, but I developed a defensive child of shutting down. And it did not serve me. In fact, it hurt me. In fact, it hurt me most of my life. It hurt my marriage. It hurt my relationship with my kids. It hurt my relationship with athletes. And I did a lot of stuff to try to figure out, like, why do I do that? Because I don't want to do that. Yet I do it. And it was modeled really great by my mom. There were times she didn't talk to us for like a week. And I don't remember what we did. And I think I did that to my family. And I don't remember what anyone did. That's just, kind of part of the human experience. We move from that original child, that little rad child that's so cute. I was a cute child. And then you get wounded. And that wounded child has to protect themselves. And they protect themselves with a defense. And they become that defensive child. And I think that you go through life being wounded a lot, or being triggered a lot. And every time that you're triggered, that defensive child comes out. And I think that some people, maybe many people, go through their entire lifetimes being triggered by others, and then their defensive child comes out. They've got to protect themselves. And they don't even know they're doing it. Or even if they become conscious of it, they don't know what to do about it. It's just a subconscious activity that happens. In a lot of my teachings, I talk about that in order to grow, you have to become conscious of your subconscious. You have to think about what you're thinking about. And it's so true when it comes to this kind of work, because we just don't realize that we're doing it. So, what do you do about that? You got to move to that next stage, the fourth stage, which is a healing child. And I think this stage, if you recognize that you need to get to it, or want to get to it, or someone suggests you get to it, or you're coached into it, or whatever, it might be a lifetime journey. Because I think that we always slip back, and we get wounded, we get triggered, and then the defense comes out. But if you become so conscious of it that you could actually spend some time healing, wouldn't that be amazing? I think that's what I'm trying to do. In fact, I've got a 3.5-hour session tonight to do that. I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but I want to do it. But one of the processes that I'm involved with my spiritual guide, Grace, and I don't know where this came from. She studied at the Omega Institute in New York, and she was there with all the brilliant psychiatrists. She was there for like 17 years. She lived there from Like, I think when she was 17 years old, she just moved there and lived there and absorbed and became brilliant. But one of the things that she's had me do is to close my eyes and think about a childhood wound that I might have had, a scene that pops up. And actually, scenes can pop up all the time. It's actually pretty easy to do, at least for me. I think it is for everyone, but I don't know. For me, it is. And then she'll set up an imagery kind of visualization where you as an adult see your little inner child going through whatever wound it had, he or she experienced, and you simply love on that little inner child through visualization. She has me actually get some markers or pastels or paints and draw out the scenes. Sometimes they can be little vignettes. Sometimes it could be just the final scene, and then work through that in order to continue to heal and develop a process where anytime that you're triggered in life, that you can kind of go back and say and examine, where did that come from? Because I'm acting childish. So if you become conscious of your unconscious and you're conscious of yourself being or acting like a child, it's a clue. It's a clue that a wound has been triggered. And this is an opportunity to take a look at it and heal that part of you. Heal that part of you. So I'm trying really hard to do this and to get more into that. But if you can heal that child, then you move to the next stage, that fifth stage, which we call the divine child, that little rad child. The rad child was the original child, became the wounded child, became a defensive child. It decided to become a healing child. And then the final step is that it can become a divine child. And the divine child is amazing because it goes back to the original child filled with wonderment. I like that word, wonderment or curiosity. You know, when you're just in the now and you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the present, you're in that sweet spot of the generous present moment in the now full of wonder. But here's the difference. You're not an original child anymore. You're a divine child. You have wonderment, but you also have wisdom. And wisdom is what we're really seeking, what we're really after. But the wisdom only comes because you work through your wounds and your defenses and you healed that inner child, at least of whatever was triggering you. You can become divine. And that's the rad child. That's what I'm working toward. That's what I'm wanting to kind of share with you in your own journey in life. Do you ever get triggered by anything? By an intimate partner or a partner or one of your kids or parents or any other relatives or coworkers or neighbors? There's plenty of opportunities to get triggered, isn't there? Shoot, I drive down these roads here in Naples, Florida, where I'm living right now, and I swear every single old person, I think I'm the youngest person living in Naples, every single old person is here driving slower than dirt. And if it's a 2-lane road, or even worse, a freeway, they seem to drive on the left lane. And I get triggered. I must be wounded by something that happened in my past where I wanted to get fast and someone made me slow down or something like that. I don't know. It's something interesting to examine. But shoot, I get triggered by that every single day. And that's not a good thing, is it? That's why I'm doing my wounded child work, because I don't want to be triggered anymore. I want to live in that now place. I want to live in wonderment, filled with wisdom, and not worry about how slow these people are driving in Naples, Florida. So I got work to do. I don't know about you, but It's such an opportunity. Again, becoming conscious of your conscious. And what I'd suggest, if you have an interest in this, is to think about when you get triggered. We have this inner being that's part of us. And if you become conscious of your feelings, and if you're feeling triggered or hurt or angered or frustrated or whatever, that's a negative thing, examine, where does that come from? Did something happen in my childhood that caused me to react the way I do? Because maybe you don't want to react the way you do. I know I don't. I want to be holly jolly, singing in my little Mini Cooper with the top down and classic rock and roll on and just having a good old time and not being triggered by anything that happens in life. Just staying in that now, full of wonderment and wisdom. Then I could come in and do a podcast, and my guests could be healthy and not get COVID on the day of the podcast. And we could have an amazing episode, which we will have. And this is an amazing one too, because it's your opportunity. It's your gift to yourself is to think about what kind of wounds did you have and how can you love on that little rad child within you. I use rad because my name is Rad Noti, but you should use whatever your name is, whatever one that you want to call yourself. Could be the Smith child or the Brown child or the Johnson child or whatever your name is. Fred, Sally, make it fun. I always like to use juicy and delicious names. So that's the Rad Child story. Now, how am I going to write that into a book? Because it's 18 minutes now, which, by the way, in a TED Talk is the perfect time to have a TED Talk. So I'm going to stop soon, but I want to just kind of recap here. You are the original child full of wonderment. When you're first born through about 2 years old, then you get wounded and you're the wounded child. That poor little child needs a lot of love, but it knows to protect itself. And it protects itself by developing some defenses to those wounds. And those defenses oftentimes stay with us a lifetime. And they cause us a lot of hurts and pains and don't serve us. And then eventually, hopefully, we wake up and we decide to heal that little child within us. And we go into that healing phase. And hopefully that doesn't last your whole lifetime. And you actually heal that child and you go to become that divine child, full of wonderment, but now with wisdom. The Rad Child story. There you go. That's what I came up with because I didn't have a guest today. Hope that it served you. And I send you lots and lots of love from my inner little rad child that may become a book one day, or maybe not. Share with me, tell me kind of what's going on with your inner child. And maybe you've got some different ideas too that could help me out and help someone in our audience. So if you do, send me a little note. I'll talk about it. I promise. In the meantime, continue to watch the Raditude podcast, subscribe, like, whatever they do on those kinds of things, and just spread the word and live rad and love contagiously. Out for now.